Greetings, and today I have another video for you guys. So before I get started, if this is your first time in the channel, I like to make mostly Gwent content with a little bit of variety here and there. So if that's your kind of thing, please do leave a subscribe on the channel, and let's begin. So this video I was supposed to do yesterday along with my card reactions, but then I wasn't really anticipating how long the reactions videos were gonna take. I took over an hour just to be able to react to all of the cards and sort of the stratagems and the new cards that were coming out. So let's just move on. So I sort of want to go through any of the gameplay changes, see how it'll affect sort of the decks that are going to be in the meta. Again, I'm not 100% sure how it's going to affect the overall meta as of just yet, because I have yet to start streaming. I'm going to start streaming in an hour after I record this, actually. So I'm going to record now, and then I'm going to upload this to YouTube in about an hour, and then I will start streaming right after that. So most of this video is going to be geared towards sort of the cards that get changed, especially ones that were used in the meta in the previous season. So we'll see how sort of it affected certain decks. Like there was already some big ones. Like we'll go through it going down. So I have the list here. Of course I'll leave a link in the description below if you want to see this link for yourself. I'm not gonna go through everything. Like the stream kind of mostly covers what their sort of overall plan is in like improving the quality of life, the aesthetics, the quality of the game itself. So I'm not really going to go through that too much. We'll see that during the streams, and you guys can comment, check me out, of course. Link also is in the description below for that. So let's get started. We're just gonna go to the monsters. So they kind of already mentioned here, like the new stratagems, making decks being more customizable. So I'm pretty sure most of you guys already know about this, even though it just came out yesterday. But stratagems is like, so that's what they're calling tactical advantage now. It's now officially called a stratagem. And they're adding different ones that sort of give you various abilities. Some are faction related, some are neutral, so you can use them in any faction. And honestly, it's a good way to sort of build your deck around those. Like I'll give you an example. Monsters, the stratagem for monsters is Death Wish, in which you can trigger a bronze allied unit's Death Wish. So it's used once only, of course. It's a stratagem like tactical advantage. It's just sort of give you that extra boost if you're on blue coin. So if you're planning to use it on Harpy Egg, then that's an extra 5 power right there for that. So that's essentially how they're just doing it in different ways, of course. So that is how they're going to work. I'm personally excited to see how these will play out in the meta. I can't wait to get started. Actually, right after I finish recording and eating dinner, I'll go straight to the stream. The next they added were scenarios. I did go over this in the card review video, so if you guys haven't seen those videos yet, I'll leave a link in the description, of course, so you guys can check it out for yourselves. So the way scenarios work is they're a very slow card. Obviously, when you play them, they're just places an artifact on the field, but they get progressively stronger. What that means is whenever you fulfill their condition, you sort of unlock an ability. So, and because of their scenarios, I believe they have it prologue, chapter 1, chapter 2. So the one for monsters, I'm just using monsters as an example because that's sort of the deck that I'll be planning on playing with today. So the prologue, after you play a Death Wish unit, there's a card that you can play. It's listed, I can't remember what it is. Chapter 1, if you play yet another Death Wish when you've already completed the prologue, chapter 1 will get unlocked, and if you do it again one more time, chapter 2 will be unlocked. It won't go beyond that, so there's only 3 conditions. It is slow to begin with, these scenario cards. Every faction scenario works pretty similar. They're just working with different archetypes. Like Northern Realms is Siege Engines, Nilfgaards are Aristocrats, which is a new card type that's been added. So yeah, so you guys kind of and Syndicate is Fee. I can't remember the rest, but we'll check it out during the streams. So we're finally getting to these changes. I'm not gonna go through all of them because some of them, the cards are just pretty obsolete at this point. It's like what does it matter? Like, who cares about Iris's companions? Like, nobody plays Iris's companions. That's just a bit too of a wild card, because you know the fact you have to you discard a random card is just way too risky. It's a ticking time bomb waiting to happen. So I guess there's 2 changes here that sort of caught my eye is Lambert Swordmaster is a big one, because Lambert Swordmaster was used quite a lot, especially to counter those swarm heavy decks. We just saw in the Merchants of Ophir expansion, Skellige got a potential swarm capability with the crows, and monsters got yet another means of swarming with rats. So Lambert Swordsmaster is going to annihilate any sort of any abundance of crows or rats that you make, not to mention already the spiders, or if you're, if you decide to go the Mystic Echo Dwarves route again, then you can do that one as well with Lambert Swordsmaster, and it's pretty good, which makes sense as to why they would nerf him just a little bit. It's not a big nerf, but it still got nerfed. The other one is Shoop's Day Off having Doomed removed from it. So what this means, I think this is what it means, because I barely ever play Shoop decks. I think any Shoop card that's made from this card can now be brought back to life with Renew. So you can potentially play this more than once. So let's say if you're going with the Shoop's Day Off, the 8 power with Resilience, you can potentially bring it back for a carryover again in the 3rd round, which I think is pretty insane. I guess they're trying to make the capability of Shoop pretty strong. Shoop did get some sort of support actually with the new expansion. There's this one neutral card where if you have no copies in your deck, you're actually allowed to play stratagems. If you play it on your melee row, you get your faction stratagem. If you play it on the ranged row, then you get a neutral stratagem. So that's actually pretty strong. It adds an extra support to Shoop's Day Off. So now there's more than one card that requires you to not have any duplicates for its ability to work. So I think that's going to be insane. Like, I'm probably going to be looking to make a Shoop deck at some point actually, just because of that card. Next, we're going on to the monsters. The big change here actually is Death Shadow's ability got reworked. Not so much actually. This actually became Whispering Hillock now. Death Shadow is just the old Whispering Hillock. I think it makes a bit more sense because being able to play a Death Wish ability once per round, I thought was pretty strong actually. Like, you had to constantly worry about Maruna and the Imperial Manticore. And other cards like Harpy's Egg, Rotfiend and stuff like that, and they don't even need to be destroyed and their ability just gets played. I like it this way where they have to get destroyed for their ability to go off, and then you can play it again and then it can be done again. This one is not playable per round anymore. It's now just once. And I think that's actually a pretty good idea. This will spawn the Merchants of Ophir actually did come out with a new Death Wish boost engine. So every time a Death Wish card is played, that engine card gets boosted by 1. So Death Shadow's new ability actually supports that one as well. And I guess to compensate for it being a 1-turn play only, they changed the provision boost from 15 to 16. So I thought that was pretty cool. Garcane's power being changed from 4 to 3. I like this change because it makes it easier now to remove Garcanes from the board. In the previous meta, they had to go from 4 to 5. So again, you had to use cards like Alzur's Thunder just to be able to get rid of one Garcane, and you had to find another way to deal with the other. I just thought it sort of went out of its way. For a 4 provision card, I thought that was just a bit too powerful, so I like the nerf that they did there. Whispering Hillock's ability, of course, got changed because we did mention that the Death Shadow ability did go to Whispering Hillock, and Whispering Hillock now just became a play a Death Wish unit from your deck. Monsters is getting a lot of sort of stronger versions of Royal Decree. So you already have Naglfar, which I think is a really good card. Not to mention Whispering Hillock now allows you to deck them even more. So I'm actually comfortable to the point where I don't need a Royal Decree in any of my monster decks anymore. I can get away with Naglfar and Whispering Hillock, and my deck will be thinned pretty well enough. So this is going to be crazy, and I think the provision stays at 8, so it's even cheaper. So I'm actually pretty confident in getting rid of Royal Decree in my monster decks. But remember, it has to be a Death Wish. There has to be at least one Death Wish, obviously, for this to work. But I don't know, I still feel pretty comfortable. Skellige, this is the one that I've actually been, hoping that they got quite a boost because, I love Skellige. It is my favorite faction. For those of you who've watched my streams and have asked me this question multiple times. They didn't get the kind of support that I wished they did. They did get some changes. They are sort of going to the Beast archetype just a little bit more, simply because of the addition of the, of the new expansion where Skellige is focusing on the uses of Druids and Crows. But I feel like they didn't get too much love from that. They got some, but not as much obviously as like monsters. I think monsters got a lot of love. There's one card, the Penitent, that lets you summon a 7-cost unit if it gets destroyed, and a really good popular 7-cost unit obviously is Pugo Boombreaker, which is 10 power. That's actually pretty insane. So yeah, it's kind of unfortunate that Skellige didn't get that kind of love, but we'll check out its changes anyway. So the one change here that I feel like the Tuisia Bearmaster's ability change kind of stayed the same. I feel like this was its ability before, or it was like some version of this ability. But at least they're giving some sort of beast support, which crows are being specified as beasts. So that is good that the allied beast is either getting 3 turns of vitality, or so it's almost like the Mahakam. Oh, I forgot which one it's called. The Marauder, I believe. The one where it gets vitality, and on Bonded it gets a stronger vitality. This one is vitality or boost. Same concept. It's all boost anyway. Another one here that got changed is actually Svalbard Priest provision got even more expensive. And I don't know why they made this change. Like, they're giving even less love to Skellige in this case because Svalbard Priest already gets destroyed. Really, I'm going to assume here that the Svalbard Priest is the one that damages a unit by 1 and boosts itself by 2. If that's the case, then that's not a good one. Svalbard Priest, yeah, this is exactly the one. Okay, so the fact that it got even more expensive, actually I didn't like this change at all, simply because it was already easily removed with 5 power. Like, I get that, again, at 5 power is different, but with Garcane, this thing's provision was at 4, so the fact that it was going to 5 actually made this one stronger than the Svalbard Priest. But moving it up to 6 now makes it even worse for the Priest, and Skellige's engines and its combo plays are already really slow to begin with. This just kind of ruined it. Not so much in the gameplay aspect, but more in the deck building aspect. So yeah, these small little changes actually, you know, kind of affect the way gameplays works, especially when it comes to your deck building. So other than that, not really a lot of big changes. I mean, I think Drummond Warmonger, I don't know if this card got reworked because I don't recognize this ability. So damaging 3 adjacent units by 1, so that's kind of similar to Patricidal Fury's ability, only this can be done on any units instead of just 3 made up ones. But on Bloodthirst 5, you can damage all units in the enemy row by 1. That's sort of like a weaker Lacerate, but giving it 3 power sort of on initial is, I guess, is pretty okay. This is a good way to get your Bloodthirst abilities activated, but this thing on its own requires a lot of Bloodthirst requirements, which I think is already pretty insane. I find that Bloodthirst is already sort of hard to accomplish, simply because all of the factions actually have capabilities of boosting each other. So this is one of the easiest mechanics to counter, which I feel kind of, you know, sad about because, again, Skellige's my favorite faction. So. And the other one is Raging Bear ability. They kind of got rid of the consequential ability, in which if there's no unit to damage, then it gets damaged by 5. This is similar to the Nilfgaardian Knight for Nilfgaard, only it can be played on the first turn now. That's sort of the only gameplay change I see from Raging Bear. So you can still combo it with an Armored Drakkar, of course. It'll gain 1, and this will stay at 7. And yeah. We move on to the Northern Realms. The 2 already big changes that actually all of these changes here actually affect Northern Realms quite greatly because of how powerful Pincer Maneuver was. Lyrian Arbalest going from 4 to 5 now makes it immune to Portal. Lyrian Cavalry, same thing, immune to Portal as well. These 2 are pretty strong on the Order synergy, so that sort of defeats the Portal. I'm not gonna expect to see a lot of Portal decks now for Northern Realms because they were mostly used to get the Lyrian Arbalest and the Cavalry out. They could have been cost to, I forget that card's name. I apologize, I'm not good with these names just yet. But they could be used to sort of play a 14-point Portal with the 2 Cavalries that get boosted by 3 when they're played from the deck. And plus it's deck then. So I suppose that's where I'm seeing Portal get targeted now. Nowhere they're going to be able to target the Arbalest or the Cavalry anymore. So those are 2 decent engines for orders for the Northern Realms, and they're gone from Portal. Next is Redanian Archer got nerfed in power, which is great. This card is now easily removed. Not like that it wasn't easily removed before, it's just that you're just able to take off its armor. But at 4 overall life, it's actually easier to remove from the field now. So, you know, cards like Assault, where you don't need to fulfill its condition of having 2 Salamandras, Stunning Blow, Cunning Strike, I believe, the one with 4 damage, and then on Bloodthirst 2 it's Steel 6. You don't need to do any of those conditions. This will just get removed right away with that card. And I think that's a good idea because Northern Realms is known for having very strong engines, especially ones that can boost, one that can damage units. So it's good that they're making nerfs on certain engines, which I like. So Redanian Archer was getting overused in every Northern Realms deck because of its ability to sort of avoid regular damage cards, because most bronze damage cards don't exceed 4, of course, until the new expansion where they exceed bronze card. They make bronze cards now that do 5, other than AT. Redanian Knight's armor and power sort of just got switched. Instead of it being a 2 power 1 armor, it's now 1 power 2 armor. Don't see how much of a difference that makes in a way. Windhelm of Atra's power changed from 2 to 3. I actually made a Shield Northern Realms deck, so this is actually pretty cool. Like, I can't wait to sort of get started and show you guys how it works. So that's pretty much it for the Northern Realms. Not too many changes. scoia'tael's ability did get changed quite a bit. The Precision Strike one. The provision went down from 18 to 16, which is a pretty big one. They lost 1 charge of damage, so they can only do 3 damage now. But once all the charges have been exhausted, you can now play a Broccolon Sentinel. So this actually gives it an extra, I believe, 4 power. It lost 1, but I think Broccolon Sentinel, I can't remember how much power it has because I haven't played enough scoia'tael. I've only been used to Mystic Echo Dwarves. Like, I'm pretty mainstream when it comes to playing decks. But Broccolon Sentinel's ability here is you can damage an enemy unit by 2, so that's essentially 5 damage right there, 3 charges plus Broccolon Sentinel's ability, which is crazy actually. And on Death Blow, summon all copies of this unit from your deck to this row. So if you have extra Broccolon Sentinels, you can bring them out. Obviously their ability won't get activated, but it's deck thin, so you can't go wrong with deck thin, right? Next is Dwarven Berserker. Actually did get nerfed quite. Changing it from 5 to 4 is actually quite a big nerf because Dwarven Berserker is just one of those cards that you just couldn't get rid of. And instead of having 5 turns of damage, it can now only do 4 turns of damage, which I think is pretty cool. But the Dwarven Mercenary provision changing from 4 to 5. Again, these don't change sort of how the gameplay works, well, except for maybe Dwarven Berserker, because now you can play him sort of a little bit later on in the cost of 1 extra damage. But the Dwarven Mercenary, changing that provision cost from 4 to 5 is pretty big actually, because it's already a 3 power engine, which is actually super vulnerable to, Toad Princes, Arach's Venoms, cards like those that do spread and like at least 3 damage. So you can already easily destroy Dwarven Mercenaries, and changing the provision from 4 to 5 also already changes the way you're gonna build Mystic Echo Dwarves deck if you still plan on going on that route. So I think that's actually a pretty big change, because Dwarven Mercenary was like one of the core Dwarven engines aside from the Dwarven Berserker. The Swordmaster got buffed. Well, it went from 5 power and 5 provision, so I guess it's a little bit harder to remove from the field now, but its ability is still the same, in which, it'll still do damage every 2 turns. Unless you play an elf every turn, then it's only every turn. And elves are getting a lot of love in this new expansion. Like, you're seeing more cards that rely on elves now, so we might see more of, like, maybe we might see Mystic Echo Elves. Who knows? I think we're gonna see it. I wouldn't be surprised. Pitfall Trap no longer destroys a unit straight up when it's played. It's just split damage equal to its provision cost. Ooh, so if your opponent plays, like, let's say Old Spirit Tip, which is like a 14 provision cost, Pitfall Trap's going to be 14 damage. That's a lot of damage, I think. That's going to be pretty insane, to be perfectly honest. It is scoia'tael, so I guess it is what it is. And the provision cost even went down. I think this card actually got better, in my opinion. Stage provision cost went from 5 to 6. Makes sense, because we were seeing some Mystic Echo Gourd sort of in the late part of the meta. And yeah, Right-Head Sappers now has a Purify ability, so you can now purify an allied unit, but if you have an elf, you can purify unit instead. So we see a second faction that's getting its Bronze Purify. Nilfgaard was the first with the Assimilate, with the Imperial Diviner. Now we have Right-Head Sappers for scoia'tael. Nilfgaard's changes. The big one was the adding of the Aristocrat, because Nilfgaard's change with the expansion release is the ability to sort of benefit from statuses. So, like, if you lock your opponent, if your opponent has like Resist Shield, Spy, Poison, Bounty, etc., then your Nilfgaard has engines that sort of take advantage of those statuses, and it gets more powerful. Like, Defender, I think, is a status as well, and I don't know if Resilience is, but that's pretty crazy, actually. Like, Nilfgaard, I think, just got pretty powerful with that, because a lot of cards, like, Doomed is a status that not a lot of people tend to, like, care about, but it is a status, and which will benefit Nilfgaard's status-based deck. So I might be thinking of making a deck based around, like, statuses, because Nilfgaard already likes to lock a lot of units, so, yeah. So Aristocrat, and a big thing with Aristocrat is the scenario card for Nilfgaard. Like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, they do, for that card to get stronger, you gotta play Aristocrats. So these are the cards getting Aristocrats already, so yeah. For Syndicate, the biggest thing with Syndicate actually is that the Scarab Beetles lost their Death Wish, so you can no longer benefit from your Scarabs dying. And I thought that was a good change. I like that change, simply because your opponent now no longer has to worry about, you know, destroying your, or even taking over your scarabs. You can just focus on pinging them, destroying them, and know that your opponent won't get any coins. I think that's what sort of bumps Syndicate to the top of the deck rankings in the first place. So the fact that they changed that to remove its ability, not to mention they removed 1 armor, so it's now a 1/1. It's now a 2 life card. That's pretty crazy. But of course, to compensate for that, they gave Azer Javed 5 power instead of 3. So it is some good compensation, but not a good enough one, obviously, that it got rid of its Death Wish. So I thought that was pretty cool. Another really big change for Syndicate is that it lost Portal. Syndicate should no longer exist. Sly Seductress's provisions went up to 5. Cut Up Lackey's provisions went up to 5. Sly Seductresses were always the portal target, in which that whenever your opponent played a card, they always get boosted by 1, which was always pretty annoying to deal with if you weren't playing with high damage cards. So this pretty much eliminated Portal Syndicate. It's no longer a thing. But it looks like no Portal Syndicate, I think, is still a thing, maybe, because a lot of these other cards sort of affect, you know, different. Well, Witch Hunter Executioner provision cost, I guess, going up to 6 changes sort of the deck build in a sense. But it's still pretty powerful, so it's now a 6 for 3. It's just because Witch Hunter Executioner, I think, was also pretty overused as an engine, which makes sense. And the other change I guess they made was Hevitir and Elidia, which card I didn't really see much play from. I'm not sure what its ability was prior to this, actually. I thought it was the same as this, honestly. I can't remember. But I guess they made it a bit more cheaper, so I guess it's going to be a bit more usable now. But again, the biggest changes here affected mostly Portal Syndicate, which is pretty crazy. Other than that, it looks like they made a couple of improvements. Like I said, they're wanting to focus on the quality of life of the game, which I'm pretty looking forward to for future updates. And yeah, I'll be checking them out during stream as well, because, you know, I don't really play music when I'm on stream. I just play the IGN. Sorry, why am I saying IGN? The in-game music, I think IGM. That's not a thing, I just made that up. Or maybe it's a thing, I can't really think about it. Anyway, so that's sort of my thoughts on the gameplay changes, or the card changes they made for the game. Leave a like if you guys enjoyed this video. Any changes that you guys like or didn't like, leave them in the comment section below, and subscribe for more Gwent videos. Other than that, this is Enzo signing out. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Or my stream if you guys are coming out tonight. See ya.